and welcome. Happy Sunday to you all. Hmm. What's going on? What's happening out there? Believe this is number 178. 178, I think. Yeah, something like that. Cut myself shaving. Unfortunate. That's what happens when you're rushing a little too fast. You can get to Sunday Live. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. What happened this week? I did a video for the RJM Overture, which is a fun and great sounding programmable overdrive pedal. Clean boosts, overdrives, bordering on distortion. Pretty useful if you got maybe 3 pedals on your board and you're like, I got all these pedals, and then you could maybe have 1 pedal and do all those things with 1 pedal. Plus, with the ability to, of course, store presets, different gain levels and stuff like that. That opens up a whole world of stuff. Similar, I guess, in some respect to the automaton from Chase Bliss. Also, that somebody pointed out the Electron Drive that came out a few years ago is another company that has a similar pedal, Electron Drive. That was a cool pedal too. I remember doing a video for it in my old room. Yeah, kind of neat. And of course, you can hook up expression pedal too. That's cool via MIDI. It's not like a direct expression pedal input. You have to do it through MIDI, but that's pretty cool. Good stuff. Neil says, digging the haircut. Yeah, I got another haircut. It's like, why not? Just keep it tight. Why not? Why not? Yeah. Somebody's on the road. Who's on the road? It's Ian Ferguson. Howdy from the road, he says. And we got Todd here. He's in Nova Scotia. Arthur's here. Ronnie. First time listening in Phoenix. Miss Ann Thrope, not Thorpe. I would have read that as Thorpe. I'm not dyslexic. I swear. First time advice, or sorry, no. Can I get some advice on what makes a great to work with musical director? Boy, that's a great question. A great to work with MD is somebody. The MD is really the liaison between the artist and the musicians, because many times it's kind of like no 2 gigs are the same. So many times it's almost like the artist is the MD, but other times they designate to somebody in the band to be the MD, and their job is really like the artist. Like, I want to do this song off this album. Can you get that ready for rehearsal today? So then you're like, okay, and then you got to send out MP3s or whatever to everybody, and charts if that's a thing that you do. And that kind of thing. It's your job to facilitate the artist's desire to, however they want their show to go, however they want the music to go, and make that easy for them to just tell one person instead of maybe telling 4 or 5 or 10 people what they want. So that's really the gig. It gets into all kinds of other areas, though, like, if, let's say, somebody in the band is disgruntled about something, or it could just tend to be where you're that liaison between the artist, which can sometimes mean their management too, and organization, and then the band members. And so a good MD knows how to walk that line and try and diffuse any issues, and also, and that's really, I'm talking, that's like 20% or 10% of it. It's really 70 or 75% about the music, because it's not really your job to tour manage or something like that. But that it just gets, how it is. It's like there's not these delineations sometimes. Sometimes there can be some gray area there where there's crossover. And so a good MD is really good at it's about conveying information effectively. The artist's desires, whatever it is that they want to do, so that when the artist comes in the room, it's almost like you've maybe already run the songs that they asked, for you to do, and it's pretty good and pretty tight. And then you just like, oh yeah, okay, well, let's just work on this transition from this to this or whatever. And it can kind of facilitate their their life really, because it's like, you know, an artist has a lot to deal with many times. If it's a solo artist, you know, they're doing photo shoots, they've got meet and greets, they've got all this stuff going on, and it's like it's a really intense job being a rock star or the, you know, the front person in the band, because then they got to also go out, sing the songs, remember all the words, and deliver and all that. And there's just a lot on their mind. I've always seen that, like every day they've always got a lot to do, and a lot more than the musicians have to do. It's exponentially more, you know. So anything you can do to try to kind of facilitate that, that's really the job as the MD, to help, you know, make the show run super smooth and be, you, once again, like I always say, you want to be a problem solved, you know. The Norm shirt is back. That's right. I love this shirt. It's my most comfortable t-shirt, I think. So as a matter of fact, when I did shirts for my last album and, you know, had them printed up for the release party and all that, I tried to get the exact same shirt, and I'm not convinced they were, but we went to the same company, and I was like, I want that shirt, like whatever those shirts are. I don't even care if they're more than other ones or whatever. I just like it because it's comfy. So I've had this shirt. That's testament to how good this shirt is too, because there's like no holes in it or anything yet. I've been wearing this shirt for like 4 or 5 years, I think. So it's a quality t-shirt. Arthur's up there in the super chat and says, keeping the haircut funding together. That's right. When you got shorter hair, you gotta get cut more often. So I appreciate that, Arthur, because you do spend more money on it than when you know, like pandemic times when I just let her go. Yeah. All right. What else we got here? What else we got? Sounds like a thankless, shitty job. What's that? Being an MD or being a rock star? Being an MD is great. It's fun. I mean, I guess it could be a thankless job, but not really. You are compensated. You know, generally you're paid more than everyone else, so it's not. I wouldn't say it's thankless. And a good MD. Actually, you know, nice artists tend to, you know, for artists that are cool to work for, they tend to always let you know or appreciate your, you know, in my experience anyway. I mean, it's funny, like with Chris Cornell, that was sort of my function, although it was never really discussed. But then Chris would say later, well, you're my MD, you know. I was like, okay. We never really had that discussion, like, and it's just sort of funny, but he would rely on me saying, you know, he'd email me, can we work on this song from Euphoria Morning today? Can we get that together for rehearsal stuff? And I was the point person, so I guess I was, you know, but it wasn't something that was ever worked out. But Chris, you know, I mean, he would let you know in his own way that he appreciated you, you know. So that always happened, you know, and I think one of the reasons why, you know, even beyond when we were touring and stuff like that, I continued to do work for him and stuff like that, because I guess he felt like I was, you know, he counted on me actually for certain things, you know, which was really, I don't know. I just, in that particular situation, it wasn't about money or anything like that, really. It was about, you know, he was my friend and I just loved the music he made. And I don't know, I had a good bond with that guy that way, you know. It was like he was a close friend, and I wanted to facilitate like his making music, because I loved when he would make music and come up with this really cool stuff. And when he was happy, that was like, yeah, you know. And if you can get that, I guess I'm a good MD in that way, because like tooting my own horn, I really care like about the way the show comes off, and a good show makes me feel there's a sense of accomplishment, you know. And I've always sort of filled that role, like in any band I'm in, where I want to do 100%. I want to do my best, and I want the artist to feel like when you walk off stage, that they're super happy. That makes me feel like we accomplished something. And if they're happy, it probably means that, you know, if they had a great show, it probably means the audience had a great show. And that's just, I just like that feeling. I don't know. That's cyclical. Like if we can keep that going on the road, I have a really good time with life in general with that feeling. I don't know. So it just works for me. I enjoy the work, I guess. Yeah. Fran says, I just want a fat new tube amp. I get that feeling. I understand that sentiment. Do you find that you rotate guitars to keep them all in use? I really try to give them all a little love. Today I broke out my Blue Saraceno Radio 10. I remember those. Wasn't that a Samick? I used to work in a music store that sold those. You could get the one in the creamsicle color, you know? It's funny because I know blues now. You know when you meet people and it's like years earlier, like they might have had an effect on you, because I always loved his guitar playing. He was great. And then I remember selling those Samick guitars and stuff, but now I know him and I see him around, but I don't like have this, there's like a disconnect between that guy that I saw in magazines and saw playing guitar and stuff back then, and worked in a little music store selling his signature guitars and stuff, and the guy I know now. I forget sometimes that, like, it's like a different, it's weird when you meet people and stuff like that. But anyways, those guitars were fun. I remember they were like stripped down. They were sort of almost like basically what a EVH, the sort of the standard Wolfgang, the one with the flat top and all that. That's kind of like, it's basically like a guitar like that, but way back then, I don't remember if they had a Floyd Rose on them. I seem to remember they had a regular tremolo or something, like a 6-screw style tremolo, but I can't remember. John got his Pariah pickups Pasadena black, and he loves it. That's great. Those are very nice pickups. It's true. It's true. They are most excellent. Just looking around for something. Yeah. So you just reminded me of something. Let's see here. What else we got here? Hey, Pete Thorn says, Zach, what's up? How you doing? Yeah, Samick Guitars made his model. It was the one, like, Samick that was kind of like, oh, they've got a Blue Saraceno signature model. I kind of put them on the map a little bit for a minute. And then I think Samick, I would assume they're probably like still a contract manufacturer or something for, like, they probably have a factory. I don't really know. Like, it's kind of like Court, like, where they've been around a long time. They make guitars for other people. I don't know what the Samick deal is now. If they're still around, it would be interesting. Somebody do some internet research and come back and tell me what's the deal with Samick. Okay, what else we got here? Wonder if you ever used Trainer amplifiers. My first amp was a Trainer. My very first amp, like a good Canadian. It was a little 10-watt solid state Trainer, but it was a Trainer nonetheless. It had a volume, a tone, and a master, I think, on it, as I remember. I had that. I had a Boss Super Overdrive, and I had a little Amec, it was called. I think Amec. That's a console company. I don't think, maybe it was an Amec, but it started with an A, and it was a chorus pedal, and it wasn't an Arian. So it was a 2-knob chorus that was probably a copy of a CE2 or something. Yeah. That was my rig. I remember that amp, that little Trainer was like loud enough to actually jam with my drummer friend. I don't think it sounded great. My second amp was an Ibanez. Does anybody remember Ibanez, like having like solid state amps in the 80s? It was like a 50-watt 112 combo with a clean channel and a dirty channel. And it probably didn't sound very good. I don't remember. And then my next amp after that was the Marshall MOSFET Lead 100, which was a pretty good amp. Basically, it was a solid state JCM 800. So then I had pretty good tone. Decent. My first tube amp, though, came after that, and it would have been a Boogie Caliber 50. Yeah. I think that's the way that all went. Random question, says Neil. Have you recorded harmonica? I'm thinking Junior Wells. No, I've never recorded harmonica. How was that sound achieved? Well, generally it was done through a little amplifier, I do believe. Like through a, Tweed combo or something with one of those harp mics like that. What is it? The Shure 535 or something, I think if you take a mic like that and you plug it into those amplifiers had a microphone input, didn't they? I think, right? Some of the Tweed vendors. But anyways, that's kind of the sound, I remember, can't remember the dude's name. There was a really good blues player out in Arcadia, Pasadena area when I was my formative years in LA in the 90s. And he had a trio, and he had a great, he could rip on harmonica, this guy. And he would play like solos where he would do Allman Brothers tunes and stuff, and he would harmonize solos on the harp and the guitar at the same time with his, he had one of those around the neck harmonica things, and he could play harmonica and guitar at the same time. It was so cool. But he had a great harmonica sound. He just would, I don't remember what the mic was that he used, but he had a tweed amp that he would plug it into, and it sounded terrific. So you can probably do that and mic it up with just about anything, and you're going to be very close to that sound. Carbon mic, says Eternalism. Bullet mic things. Yeah, I think it's called the 535. Isn't that right? The Shure. I could be wrong about that, but it looks like a bullet. Brooks says, can anyone help with an ohm question? Rev D20, option run at 4.8. The cab is 8. Seems to sound better running at 4. It won't hurt the amp. That's fine. That type of mismatch where the amp is one step lower than the cab is okay. Is it optimum? It's probably not optimum, but it, generally speaking, that's okay. It's the other way that is the problem. So like a 4 ohm cabinet and an 8 ohm amplifier, amp set for 8, that's frowned upon and probably not a good idea. Generally speaking, that's the conventional wisdom. Let's see here. Just missed a chat. What do you think of burst buckers? What would you replace them with? Well, you'd have to tell me what you want and what you don't like about the burst buckers. I have burst buckers in my Dave. It's old now. My Dave Grohl DG 335. It's got burst buckers in it. And they made different ones, burst bucker 1, burst bucker 2. I think there were all some variation of, pretty sure they're Alnico 2 magnets, PAFE. I have no desire to change the pickups in that guitar. It sounds fine. It sounds good. Fine. Sounds like I'm not thrilled about it. No, it's good. I mean, it sounds like it's supposed to. It sounds like a good hollow body Gibson that isn't too hot. It's got a great snap and kind of twang to it and a warmth to it, and it does the cool thing in the middle position and in the bridge position. So what is it that you're looking for? If do you want substantially more drive, or do you find the guitars too dark or bright? And I think generally speaking, I don't have a lot of desire to change things, just to try different things these days in a guitar that's working pretty good, that seems like it gets the job done. So, yeah. What else we got here? Any thoughts on the Dave Bray modded Plexi EVH tones? Everyone I've heard online, I mean, I've heard some good sounds. I've never personally played one. But they do sound good to me. I mean, I remember David Bray was the guy that they used to talk about way back when there was a bit of an 80s renaissance and people were getting interested again in Eddie Van Halen's early guitar sound, which to me, it kind of coincides with when the internet really started, it was like 2005, 6. People were getting really interested, 4, 5, 6. And it was like the Metro forum on the EVH guitar sound and stuff. People used to start talking about Eddie Van Halen. They were talking about Eddie Van Halen's old tone more then. And that's when I started hearing about David Bray. I still have never played one. So he's got that amp, the 4550. I think Chelsea. I was just thinking, pronouncing it phonetically like the spelling. Chelsea Constable. She great guitar player, and she would do videos for him way back when, and she's great player, and it always sounded really good to me. So I can't offer anything beyond that because I just haven't played one. But yeah, good sailing on the internet anyway. Michael is a couple super chats up there. We got John and Michael. Let's go to Michael first here. I was thinking of getting an Ibanez Vemoram Tube Screamer and saw that you'd done a review on it a while back. I'm curious to hear on whether you use it. I have used it. Occasionally when I plug in for sessions around here and stuff, I thought, I'll try that pedal for this tone. It's really cool. It's it really is a cross between screamer and a Jan Ray. It's maybe a little more in the Jan Ray camp. But if you haven't tried a Jan Ray into a dirty Marshall type sound, as a matter of fact, I have one sitting right here on my desk. How about that? Isn't that funny? I had to put another pedal on my board for something I'm doing, and so I put it in the slot of the Jan Ray. But this has been on my board forever. This pedal's heavy. It's got a heft to it. It's interesting. I guess it's that crazy case they use. But anyways, how do I describe it? It's the Jan Ray has a very natural, like it's a more natural sounding than a tube screamer to me as far as the amp. Yeah, you can use a Jan Ray almost with the volume rolled down for clean sounds where you want more full mids. I would generally wouldn't do that with a tube screamer. It would sound weird, I think. The Jan Ray really does, like, to me, it's kind of great for approximating maybe tweed-like amp sounds, and also like for an alternate, maybe more complex than what a tube screamer will give you texture through an already overdriven amp. So it sits right in the middle of those two pedals, and I don't really know how else to describe it, like a screamer and a Jan Ray, in my opinion. I don't know if that's helpful. It's hard to describe tone. John says, donation for making the best all-around gigging guitar. Love my Sir Pete Thorn. Thanks, man. Thank you. We're working on more stuff. Yes, we are. More interesting things. I'm glad you really like it. And that's exactly what we tried to do with it. You know, I mean, that was always my intention, was make a great all-round, you know, terrific versatile guitar that hits a whole bunch of different tones and feels great, looks classic and familiar, and yet slightly different. Yep. And I appreciate the super chats, you guys. John, Michael, thank you very much. Okay, what else we got here? Let me put on the glasses so that I can see. I've got the black glasses today. Man, I really did nick myself there. Look at that. Cut myself shaving. Damn it. Let's see here. Steve says, Joe Walsh said back in the day, techs used to use parts they had on hand, tubes, etc. I think that's absolutely true. I think many times tubes, like, you know, you hear a lot of these stories about amps blowing up a lot and old Marshalls blowing up, and it was largely down to, I don't think, I mean, when you see fan holes cut in amps and things, you know, like the Mick Mars amp and other, you know, you hear about people putting fans on amps, and this was just like things that weren't really necessary if the amp was biased correctly for the tubes that went in. But, you know, literally, I think they just used to plug tubes into amps, you know, and then sometimes if it worked, it was like, okay, it works. If it didn't, it was like, oh, the tubes are bad. It could have just been the bias, you know. But from what I heard from Dave Friedman, who spoke to Rudy Laren about it, like Eddie Van Halen's amps, as soon as they started having Jose match sets of tubes for them and then biasing the amp, all those problems went away. Blowing up things. So I think that was a thing back then, you know, just plug it in, try it, see if it works, you know. Oh, neck too dark, bridge too bright. I think this might be the comment about the burst buckers. Well, then in that case, you want a set of thorn buckers, because that's exactly what the nice gentleman that was just sent the super chat, and that was John. I think John can attest to the fact that the pickups balance perfectly, you know, in the Thornbucker set. That's what, you know, with the different magnets in the two pickups and stuff, and with the wind the way it is, it's just you can hit the neck, you can hit the middle, you can hit the bridge. And I show that in the video. If you want to see, you don't have to take my word for it. You can take my playing for it in the video on the Sir. I think it's on my site too, but it came a long time ago, 2015 or 16, whenever we put the pickups out. You can hear the Thornbuckers and the balance, because I wrote a piece of music that I tried to show the balance between all three humbucking positions by flipping the switch and playing riffs and things like that. And you can hear the, you know, the differences. Somebody else up there in the super chats, Matthew Kennedy, he says, I love that you utilize such a wide range of gear from vintage to modern and analog to digital. I do love it all. I do. How do you decide what specific pieces are right to bring to a particular gig? Well, it's funny you mentioned. I can give you an exact example. This week, I have an audition for something. And there are some really interesting, unique guitar tones on it. So strategically, when I'm thinking about an audition and going out and playing for a gig, I'm thinking about, okay, what's going to happen at the audition? How can I make the most impact and have the best, first impression? So the thing about these guitar tones in this one particular song is there's some direct stuff going on, and there's some direct fuzz stuff going on that almost sounds like industrial. That sound where it's just like plastered to the speakers and it's full range and it's fuzz. So that's happening. And it's a really interesting, one of the things that's great about this particular thing that I'm doing this week is that they sent stems. So I have the guitars isolated so I can really hear the parts. That's amazing. I like the people doing this already because they did that. And it's like, it really goes a long way towards making, my job easier, like learning things when I can really hear exactly what's going on outside of a mix. So I kind of had fun. I set up what I'm going to do is actually bring a couple, there's stereo sounds too. So what's going on with this one tone is up the middle, and it's changing, but like this one primary part, I'll just take as an example. It's got an octave shifted down that's center panned. It's got a dry, well, not dry, but standard range sound, not pitch shifted, in the right channel for this one part. And it's got an octave up in the left channel. So it's this huge guitar sound. And it's with these pitch shifting things going on and stuff. And because of the direct nature of the sound, it's like, okay, how can I, because if I take amps, I'm not really going to be able to do that exact thing. I can think of different ways that I could do it using impulse responses and things like that and turning them on and off for certain tones, but that sounds a little too complicated. So what I've decided to do is actually, I'm going to take it to put, now, the other thing you got to take into consideration is when you're going to do an audition or something like that, it's going to be probably people in the room listening. Maybe they're taking video on a camcorder or even an iPhone, right? And if you want to make an impression with that in mind. So if you don't have an amp, that would be hard to do. Now you're relying just on the PA. Maybe that'll work, maybe it won't, but it might be better and have more impact to have an amp in there in the room playing. So bass, drums, guitar, amps working together, that kind of thing. So I've set up a rig to do as best I can these sounds and stuff like that with amps, but I'm also going to do it, and I might make just a video to send to them and say, hey, here's my version of this and how I could do this and really get these sounds if you're looking for the exact sounds, using the Helix. Because using the Helix, you can do the splits and stuff like that. I could have used the Quad Cortex or an Axe Effects or stuff like that too, but you guys know what I'm saying. The nature of these kinds of tones, the direct sounds and stuff, it just sort of lends itself to the modeling stuff. So you make a great example, like using the vintage stuff, using the modern stuff. When it comes time to use the modern stuff, hey, I'm all about it. So what I'm going to do is come up with the sounds, play the parts, and there's some acoustic guitar in the song as well. It moves from acoustic to these crazy industrial kind of sounding parts, and then at the end, it's like a split stereo, very vintage. Sounds like two Tweed Deluxes or maybe an AC-15 or something, and double tracked on each side. I can do all that very simply in a modeler, and go from sound to sound to sound. So I think in here, what I might do later today is take a video of me doing that exact thing with an acoustic on a Gracie stand, with the electric guitar, switching to electric to play the crazy industrial stuff, and then at the end going to the split stereo, thing with the two kind of more vintage sounding amps, and do that using the modeler thing, so I can say, hey, here's like one version of how I would do this using modeling thing. But when I actually go down to play with these folks, I'll bring the amps and just do the amps, more of that type of thing. So this is my thought process when I come up with this stuff. You give people options. Why not? It's like this or this. What do you dig? But this is the fun thing, I guess, about not getting too painted into like, oh, I need my vintage rig, or I mean, that's cool too. It's like if you're a stylist and you're like, this is what I play. I play a super reverb and an old Strat or whatever and stuff. That's cool too. That's a certain kind of guitar player. But I'm a chameleon, I guess, when it comes to this stuff. And this is the way I think about these things. It's like sound design almost. I mean, I love the thinking about different ways to do things and how to get. I love digging into a sound on an album and seeing how close I can get. I like doing that, like the Van Halen videos and stuff like that. Even Brian May and different videos I've made. It's really fun. It's like detective work. How close can I get to this thing? So. Anyways, but that's a great question. Thanks for asking. I'm glad I had a kind of a, current sort of situation that I could apply to that question. I second the versatility of the PT signature guitar, says Greg there in the super chat. Thank you, my friend. I use mine primarily to play honky tonk country. That's cool. So I wonder what pickup positions you use. Do you use the number 2 a lot with the split coils? I love that sound on that guitar. It's one of my favorites actually for doing, clean kind of twangy stuff. It's pretty low gain, but it's cool. Low gain's in these days. I mean, folks using the gold foil pickups and all that. It's like those are really weak. So interesting. Yeah. What else we got here? What else we got here? Are stems just isolated tracks? I hear that term a lot recently. This is a great Bob Clearmountain, my buddy Bob, did a great video on this recently on his Instagram, where he gets pissed off about people misusing the term stems. What a stem is it's sometimes a submix of instruments. It's not, it could be an individual track only in the case where, like the bass, where there's one bass part in a song, or if it's a guitar part, there's only one guitar part in a song. And then, so like a drum stem would be the entire kit mixed to a stereo track, right? So if you send somebody if it was the guitar, bass, and drums stems from a recording, it would be stereo drums on one track, bass on another, and all the guitars submixed to another track, all the vocals submixed to another track, maybe the background vocals all submixed to one stereo track. That's what stems are. So and Bob gets really pissed off when he's like, yeah, I'm going to send you the stems. And he's like, what do you mean you're going to send me the stems? Don't send me the stems. Send me the tracks, individual tracks. So there is a misuse of the word stems that's been happening lately, and it's good to clarify it. Stems are submixes, and it helps you to identify. So like, for instance, with this thing I'm talking about this week, there was an acoustic guitar track all by itself. But there was a mix of bass, drums, and vocals all on one. No guitars though, and then it had all the guitars isolated out. So acoustic guitar on one, and then another one was a submix of all these solo lead parts, which goes from tone to tone to tone. So it's about 3 or 4 different guitar parts in one stem, but you can clearly hear what's going on when it goes between them. So, yeah, that was probably too long-winded. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. Neil says, I appreciate that clarification. No problem. People often use stems when they're doing submixes or when they're doing, remixes is what I meant to say, another term. If you send like the instruments for you might not necessarily need to send somebody the entire session if they're doing a remix of a song, and if they're going to pull the drums out anyway and do crazy stuff. You could use stems to do remixes and things sometimes. So crazy dance mixes of things or stuff like that people do. Stems versus tracks, that's right. Individual tracks versus submixes. Really, we could call them submix tracks, but stems is a nicer word. Yeah. Any advice for purchasing a Fender custom shop Strat? Feeling nervous about Fender quality control and too many options. I generally think the custom shop does a pretty nice job on things. I don't get out to too many music stores anymore, but when I do go to, let's say, True Tone Music in Santa Monica and pick up some guitars, they seem very nice, and consistently good. What's coming out of the Fender custom shop is probably more consistent than whatever they were doing in the 60s, certainly in the 70s. Some really nice guitars. Generally speaking, I find I pick up a custom shop Strat and it rings really nice and it looks cool, and it's got, sometimes the look looks off to me, like some of the 60s ones, or the 50s ones with the aging or something won't look quite right, and then you'll see another one and it looks great. It just depends, right? You guys find that? I mean, that's what I notice. John says, get a Sir. Exactly. No, I still like Fenders too. I mean, I love Sirs. That's my, they're my company, but a Fender does nice stuff too. And, it's down to the folks putting the guitar together there on whatever particular day. It's a big company. It's a big operation, and probably going to be some builders that do stuff that is more jives with, what you like, and other ones not so much. And of course there's the master built guitars and then the team built custom shop too, so it just depends, but yeah, it just depends. It's down to the individual guitars. I wouldn't be too, especially if you get to play the guitar in advance and it feels good and it sounds good, and don't think about it beyond that. If you're ordering something from Sweetwater or something, that always but they've got a great return policy, so you're protected pretty much buying that way even these days, so a store like Wildwood too, like they, you can call them, I believe, and have, how sometimes they'll have like 8 of the same guitar that's kind of like a Wildwood custom spec or whatever. Seems like they really are, good. I've been to that place and it's really cool in Colorado. I like those people, and they'll go through the guitars, and like you could get somebody on the phone and say, can you pick out the lightest one for me, or the one that you think rings the best, and the guy will actually go through and do that. And on the other end of the phone, he's like, okay, this is the one that I think, whatever, that this is the one that feels really great. And then you can, it's kind of cool. So Van Boingo says, thoughts on the new Alex Lifeson Epiphone? Cool. I mean, I love Alex, and an affordable Les Paul with a Floyd is a cool thing. It's got a Floyd, right? Does it have the access neck joint and stuff? I think it does, right? Originally you can only get a guitar like that from Gibson with the Neil one, which was, what started out. I think his was the first one they ever did with a Floyd, and then Alex kind of ran with that idea and they did his signature model, but the Neil one was like $9,000 or something. So now you can get one from Epiphone and it's a reasonable price and all that. I am in the camp where it's like I always kind of have an issue with the headstock on an Epiphone. If I want a Les Paul, I want it to have that headstock. I don't know. So it's funny because like I don't really feel that way about Sir. Some people make stink about headstocks and stuff if they aren't the original Fender one. I don't feel that way about Sirs because I've looked at them for like 20 years now. And we saw different headstocks on Strat style guitars in the 80s. I mean, the Sir isn't that different from like what Kramer was doing in the early 80s. So maybe it was already in my, you know what I mean? Like, but the Epiphone one always looks a little funny to me, but it's kind of a small concern when you're talking about somebody that needs a working good guitar that's got a Floyd on it, that, with good access, neck joint and all that. And there's other things that are more important than the look, right? Or maybe not for some people, I don't know. But anyways, my best buddy's girlfriend, says Patrick, helps book music at Lucky Strike. Do you know May? I don't think so, but we may have met in passing. Yeah, we may have met. Yeah, not sure. But interesting. I know that the Soundcheck Live is actually moved to another venue now. So I wonder if does she work for the venue, or does she do Soundcheck? or because that was like the night, the promoters or whatever, it was Soundcheck Live, and they would hold it at the Lucky Strike, and now that they're moving to this other venue. So, but anyways, what was the final criteria for using the Alnico 5 magnet in the neck Thornbucker versus keeping the 4? It's got a little more, it's a little brighter, which is part of what contributes to the balance. It's got a little more of a high treble. Alnico 5 has a little bit more of a high treble cut thing. Can also have more bass too, but if you wind the pickup relatively low wind and do an offset, it'll open up the sound a little bit and give it some chime and stuff. So that's the deal with really, if you put a 4 in there, it would sweeten the top end a little bit, which maybe in the neck position could be seen as dark, right? So, and this was something that the first pickup set I tried with that magnet combo was Gil Yearns in my Yaron, and I was like, oh wow, these pickups are beautiful, and they really they translate well in all the pickup positions and everything, and it just works really great. So bottom line is, we tried that. We didn't copy those pickups or anything like that, but I said I want to try this magnet combo because I love it in my Yaron Les Paul. Let's try a 4 in the bridge. And Sir had never done, I think, pretty sure that my Alnico 4 Thornbucker was the first time they ever did a different magnet besides a 5 in a Sir pickup. And now they're using it in some different ones. Like I think the Sato Bucker has a 4, pretty sure. So it's good. It's broadening the line a little bit and stuff like that. But anyways, the 4 in the bridge and the 5 in the neck, it just is a nice combo for sweetening up. When somebody mentioned earlier about Burstbuckers, they said that the bridge seems too bright and the neck seems too dark. For given amp settings, like for any given amp settings, that can be the case, right? With the 4 in the bridge and the 5 in the neck with the Thornbucker set, you're going to be able to set your amp for either the neck pickup or the bridge pickup, get a great sound, and switch to the other one, and it's going to sound really good. I always hate when you feel like you need to redial in the amp when you switch the pickups. So that was one of the main things, was that balance. And I really think you can hear that in the video that we did for them, where I'm playing my black signature guitar and I'm switching between the different pickups. So Todd says, did you ever meet or play with Shannon Hoon? I never did. No. Never did. Blind Melon, right? Yeah. I was in LA at the time. I don't know if they were. It's funny. A friend of mine, John Fields, producer, he leased their studio. They have a studio not far from where I am right now, a nice studio space in North Hollywood. And that was where they worked, evidently. Now, I don't know if that was before or after Shannon passed away. I'm not sure. But anyways, that was my only connection to them, was I was at that studio a few times and stuff once John had it. Do you have a switching pedal or device that allows you to switch between the amps on the fly? Well, both my pedal board, this in the studio, that thing up there with the white stripe on it, that is my amp switcher. So from the desk here, I can switch. Just one sec here. Cable is. Oh, you know what? This isn't going to make it pretty far enough for you guys to be able to see. Well, I could just disconnect it here. There we go. This is the remote for that thing over there. So I can select literally like O2, go there, and on this cab output it'll go to the aux, and then I can go O1, enter, and then it'll go to the SL68. Or I can go O2, enter, and now it goes to the Synergy stuff over there. O3, that Marshall over there, in the rack. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 amps all the way through here. These 3 I need to switch the cables on because I have too many amps in here for the switcher. So these 3 are all number 6. So I just got to pull the input cable and go to the different amps, and then change the speaker cable in the back, and then I can go to any one of these 3 right here. But basically, yeah, that's how I have it set up, and that's how I switch amps. And like I say, 3 different cab setups. I can go to the Sir reactive load, the aux or my cabinet that's live out in the other room using that setup. Now on my pedal board, it does have two outputs. Mainly what I'll use the two outputs on my pedal board for are the A output goes to my electric rig and the B output will go to an acoustic line so that I can just plug my acoustic right into my pedal board and switch using my MIDI switcher to go to my acoustic. And I got my tuner and everything then. So I've also used it though. On Melissa Etheridge tour I did in 2011, I went to kind of a vintage amp rig and I was using SL68 vintage style amps, SL68 and the Kelly amp, and I would switch. I was using the Kelly for clean and the SL68 for my crunchy tones, and then I would just hit pedals in front of those amps. So that's how I would do that, and I can do that on. So yeah, basically, long story short, I can switch between two amps on my live rig too. Dwayne says, fresh beans for a cup of your favorite. Thank you, sir. Have you looked at the Epiphone Les Paul Modern? I haven't. What's that? How's that? What's that look like? Let's take a look right now, shall we? Epiphone Les Paul Modern. 49 at Guitar Center in sparkling burgundy. That's a beautiful color. Wow, that is a nice color. Looks kind of like a looks like it's got an ebony board. I wonder what it is. The website Guitar Center would like to use your current location. No, don't allow. Well, it looks like a what's different about this guitar? They do look sharp. What's it made out of? Mahogany with ultra modern weight relief. It's got holes in it. It's okay. My guitar's got some holes in it too. Mahogany neck with asymmetrical slim taper profile, an ebony fingerboard. It looks kind of like a Les Paul Custom, but it's got Les Paul standard inlays. And a lock tone ABR bridge. It must have some kind of locking ABR bridge. Well, that's interesting. It's got coil splits. It's got a phase control, so you can knock the pickups out of phase. Treble bleed circuit. Looks like pretty cool. Fast neck with a new heel contour. Let's take a look at the heel contour. Oh yeah, it kind of has the access heel. Well, that looks like a pretty nice guitar. Does it not? I think. Les Paul Modern Advanced Electronics. Split. It's a Les Paul with split coil stuff, easier high fret access, all that good stuff. Get your Jimmy Page sounds and stuff. Looks cool too. It's a nice looking guitar. I like candy red. I like red guitars. Let's see who else we got up here. We got a super chat from Leon. What's going on, Leon? Leon is in Europe, and he says, have you ever played with the internal treble, middle, and bass controls for the gain side of the Hedgehog? I feel like I need more high end on the gain channel, but I'm afraid to mess with it. You know what? I haven't either. It sounds really good to me, so I never got in there. There's trims, though, isn't there, on the inside? It's an overdrive circuit of some sort. I've never played with it. I know what you mean. Like, but if you feel like you need more high end, go for it. Just mark wherever you have the settings. Take a photo with your iPhone. Photos with the iPhone are a lifesaver. Pedal settings, amp settings. Just document it on your phone or your Android or whatever you've got. We know you've got some kind of smartphone. If you don't, take it on your flip phone. It's got a camera too. Take it on your Razr, your Nokia. Just document where it was, and I'm sure it's fine. You'll be able to get back there. Variac with a Trainer YBA1. I played a YBA1 a little while ago that Friedman serviced. And it sounded really good, but it was a little furry. It was kind of big and woolly sounding. I probably would have, if it was my amp, I probably would have pulled a little bit of low end out of the front end. I would think the Variac might kind of accentuate that, like make it a little, because the Variac sort of tends to make things a little less punchy. I don't want to say loose, but you don't have quite as much attack I find it'll lower the volume and also, yeah, maybe it's loose, So it just depends on your amp and what you like. Some people like that. Um, I mean, I've got friends that use Variax on things, and it to me it sounds kind of like too loose, but they like it. So it depends what you're into. If you're into old tweed Fenders and those kinds of tones and things that have a kind of attack to them or whatever, and you like those sounds, that's a lot of people are into that kind of thing. I grew up in the punchy, Angus Young meets Eddie Van Halen meets whatever, and so I'm always I like a slightly tighter sound than some folks. So it's all a formula, a recipe. What do we got here? Custom Shop Charvel mahogany with maple cap and maple neck. Seymour Custom in the bridge seems too compressed. Yeah, that's kind of an effect of ceramic pickups, can sound kind of compressed, I would say. I know what you mean. More dynamic, hot EVH tone. Probably if you kind of like that thing, but you want a more, when you say hot, I think mid-range. And I think one of those 14K, like either a custom or a Pasadena Black or from Pariah or something along those lines, even the EVH Wolfgang pickup might get you more where you want to go. That seems more. When I was a kid, I always remember trying the ceramic pickups and then trying the Alnico pickups and feeling like the Alnico pickups had more tone. And I didn't know what that was when I was a kid, but it was like mids, more like going on in the mids. Whereas a ceramic pickup, and now I appreciate what they do, but it is a more broad, distorted, and yes, maybe compressed sort of character. The big bottom end, big top end, it's kind of more like this big sound that just kind of comes at you. And the other pickups had more like through the mids kind of character. And you will get that out of one of those 14K. When you say dynamic and hot, try that, either the Seymour or the Pasadena Black, I would say, would both be good options. Thanks for the super chats, guys. A couple more here. How do you get your demo mixes and nerd albums to sound so stellar? Thanks. Reference tracks. What's on your master bus? I'm a UAD and PT100 guy. A couple things that I use on my master bus. I'll be careful, first of all, when I'm making an album track versus doing my songs for demos. For demos, I'm basically doing my own mastering. So I want it to sound as finished as I can make it sound. It's not going to go to a mastering engineer. So when I'm doing my demos, generally speaking, on my bus is your UAD guy. So it's the SSL 2-bus compressor, the G series 2-bus. And I'll set it for usually, sometimes I'll go the faster attack times, but generally speaking, it's the 10 millisecond attack time or the 30 for a real open, the least effect at the 30. It retains the punch more of the attack. But sometimes I'll go to 10 to try and rein things in a little bit more. And then I'll set the threshold. I'll usually use 2-to-1. Sometimes I use 4-to-1, but usually 2-to-1 and for the ratio. And then as far as the threshold and how much gain reduction, I'm never getting more than, say, 3 dB of gain reduction, maybe 2 at the most. So I just use it a little bit, and then I balance the gain, the makeup gain. And then I use often these days this Waves Greg Wells. This is one of my secret weapon, kind of like for mix bus. The Waves one knob Greg Wells mix centric. It's $49, I think. Just get it and enjoy. It's so good. You put it on it's a one knob thing, and you turn it up, and it's like a one knob better knob. Oh, my mix just got better. It's doing multi-band compression and EQ and all kinds of things. It's analyzing your mix as it's coming in, and then it's doing some stuff. So you can use that. You want to use it sparingly, just a little bit, and you'll notice you turn it on and off. You're like, oh man, that is great for just adding. It's a great simple fix for adding some clarity and some finish to your mix, finished sound. And then for a limiter, for many years, I use the FGX from Slate. I'm kind of mainly these days using actually the Brainworks, another UAD plugin, the Brainworks Master Desk, which is great. And it's hard to get in trouble, and it's just very friendly. It's got a couple simple tone controls on it, compression, these resonance filters that are helpful. a control for total harmonic distortion where you can add, and you can just kind of play with it. It's also got a mid-side thing where you can kind of increase the stereo width of your mix a little bit, and that is really cool. So it's a great way to just, there's some nice presets in it. It's just like you can get used to it, and it's very friendly, and it seems hard to bugger up your mix using it. So those are the three main plugins I use. There's another one called the Drummer something or other 73. I can't remember, but it's a great kind of one-stop shop. Does compression, EQ, like multi-band compression, EQ, but it's like a very simple with only a couple controls on it. So it's like these are plugins for dummies like me. Hard to make mistakes, but it's nice too. But I haven't really been using that as much lately as the other three that I just mentioned. SSL, Waves, Greg Wells, Mixcentric, and the UAD Brainworks Master Desk, all in a row in that order, just using a little bit of each one, and that seems to do a really nice, just this really nice thing. What else we got here? Bill, thanks, buddy. You guys are too kind with the super chats. I appreciate it. Have a drink on me. Have a drink on me. Have a drink on me. Rock and roll. It's in my soul. I like it. I missed a super chat. Thanks, Ben. How are you, buddy? I bought an XC Blue Drive. Was that an always on for you? No. I used it. I still have it on my board. I wouldn't say it's like well, I guess it's kind of, it's been on there for a long time. I use it for a light, broken up kind of plexi-ish overdrive. When I want to have my gain channel on my PT 100 or PT 15 on 5, for live stuff. So it's kind of like a cooking JCM 800 sort of sound almost, but refined. That can be too much sometimes for certain sounds, where it'd be more like light, like JTM 45 or light plexi kind of drive, 60s stuff, or like, certain things. That's what I use the Ecstasy Blue for. And I find it works quite well for that. You can put it in the lowest gain setting on the switch and then crank the gain all the way on 10, and that's a great sound. And put the tone controls right about in the middle, and then just kind of set the master for unity gain. Everything's almost on 5 except for the master, the preamp or gain or whatever they call it, and that's on 10 and on the lowest gain setting. That works really good. If you need a little more, you can go to the next gain setting, then back that gain down to like 6 or something. And I never used the Variac thing on that Bogner Blue pedal, the 9-volt. I always use the punchy, it's just a switch that takes you from 18 to, it's got a voltage doubler in it, internal voltage doubling. So, yep. Good stuff. Good stuff. What else we got here? Material for teaching arpeggios that you would recommend. What did you use to learn? I don't know if I ever really studied arpeggios per se, but I do remember my friend and great instructor at MI saying that all he did for 3 months at one point was play arpeggios. And I could see how that would be a great thing for one's guitar playing, because all an arpeggio is a broken chord. So if you're trying to play through changes, to sit there and work on nothing but arpeggios for 3 months on the guitar, you would have a different way of visualizing the neck after that, I think. I never had that kind of patience, but I always aspired to do that someday. Maybe I'll still do it. But anyways, you know what I mean? I don't know what his formula was for, where he would pick, if he had books or things that he was drawing these arpeggios, he probably did, But I would seek out, just to sit there and play through arpeggios, be it, sweep picking or be it alternate picked arpeggio. I'm sure he was alternate picking them. Nick was a guy that was never concerned too much with flash or technique, although he had great technique. He was a great rock guitar player with a really cool style. Like when I think of the guys that really, influenced me, I feel this way about Warren DeMartini. I saw him yesterday, and he's a great guy, by the way, and he's a really sweet dude, and it's such an amazing guitar player, and so I was listening to some of his solos, and like there's a lot of his playing in my playing, like that I extrapolated, just through listening, and also working on some of his licks and stuff, and just that phrasing and that thing. Anyway, Nick kind of remind me of that too. I don't know if Nick ever listened to Warren but that what I'm talking about. That and there's a lot of Eddie Van Halen, I guess, in all of this. But anyways, just Nick seemed to really have his head on straight when it came to what was important. And so the fact that he played through chord tones for 3 months, just practicing arpeggios, I thought was really cool. So that might be something you want to consider. I mean, there's a lot of places you can probably pick up the shapes, and then just play through them. And it gives you another way of thinking about improvising, I think, probably at the end of all of that exercise. I thought that was really cool that he did that. It's also great for if you're alternate picking through arpeggios. I mean, how can that not be good for your technique and your right hand while you're working on something musical, which is like knowing where the chord tones are, for any given, so pretty cool. But I still think Mesa Boogie's Mark IIc is the best distortion I use. Can you give me your thoughts? That's interesting. I played Mesa amps for a while in the 80s. Like I say, my first tube amp was a Caliber 50. And then I had a studio preamp after that. And at some point after that, I got in like 2002, I ended up with a triple channel rectifier. I had, a bunch of different Mesas over the years. The 2C is probably their most iconic amp, right? 2C plus, right? I'm not sure which one is the, but that's like the coveted, I guess what Petrucci based his amp on. And to me, the thing about the Mesa style cascaded preamp gain distortion thing, it can be very friendly to play, and it's really, really terrific for especially single notes because they're very big and round, and so like for playing lead, it's kind of just like it feels like the guitar is playing itself a little bit more. And this is like in contrast to the Marshall sound, which can tend to be thinner, I think, on individual notes and less kind of preamp gain based. Or cascaded preamp gain. So I always found, and this was something I decided kind of in the 80s, I was like, okay, Marshall is more kind of stringy and a little thinner, but when you play chords, there's kind of more definition. And Mesa works really great for playing lead and single note, fast sustained runs and all that stuff, but it sounds a little mushier when you play bigger chords. That's what was always my Mesa versus Marshall sort of, that's how I, rationalized it in my head or whatever, the differences that I felt like were there with those two different amplifiers. So they both do a cool thing for different things. Now the Mesa distortion to me, if you saw the video I put out on preamp distortion versus loud crank tube amps a while ago, that's why I'm a Marshall guy, because I loved that sag, like the Eddie Van Halen thing and all that, and I could never get that out of a Mesa. But the Mesas do a different thing. It's just a different thing. It's if you like it, like folks like John Petrucci he's played him his whole career, and he gets great guitar sounds. Andy Timmons gets great guitar sounds, and he uses, those amps as well. So it's like whatever works for you, it's cool, and the 2C it's a classic amp at this point, it's something that I kind of find it interesting that more like boutique amp manufacturers haven't directly knocked off, to be honest. Right? Like, plenty of people have done the Marshall thing and stuff, but you haven't seen too many people try and like nail that 2C thing in like another brand boutique amp. So maybe we'll see that someday. But anyways, yeah, that description of Mesa is exactly why I dislike Petrucci's rhythm tone. Well, that's the thing. There's no free lunch, right? And it's hard to get it all in one amp, maybe. But there is this trade-off. And for me, I was mentioning Warren, if we take the that's to his rhythm sound, those dirty chord George Lynch, or like, I grew up listening to those rock guys that played those Marshall tones and that kind of harmonic snap, and they'd play those, triads and things, and it would and have this, great sort of attack, and then as the harmonics and they would fade. And on a Mesa, to me, it always sounded a little mushier with the big chords, but the single notes was a beautiful thing, I mean, it was more like horn-like or something when you can get that kind of fatness and sustain. So Wakel Jr. is still one of my favorite songs from that period that I have yet to nail down. That's a great if that was one of the first licks that I can remember like learning when I was a kid and going, this phrasing is so cool. Like it's 3 4 how cool is that, right? Not just da 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 da. You know what I mean? Like when you're a kid and you're working on scales and stuff. But that kind of it was so cool, and that he had that shit down, man. That swing phrasing and cool, not starting right on the beat, and then where he would hold notes. God, he's a great guitar player, Warren. Gonna give him credit. Really cool phrasing and wonderful phrasing. So, yeah. What else we got here? There's a super chat there that did I miss that? Where is that one? Oh no, that was that one. Got it. Okay. What else we got? Let's see. I think Warren built a lot of his tones on Fair Warning. I mean, in a way, yeah. I mean, I think you're not far off at all when we think about, Lay It Down, it's very Unchained, for sure. Those great Marshall tones with, hot pickup in the bridge, and I think JB a lot, he used, and just bridge pickup. God, man, what was the solo on, there's a solo on Detonator. Holy shit. I was listening to that album yesterday. It's funny because he was like around the studio here yesterday, and then I left for a while. I had to go get a haircut, and then I was listening to that album in the car because we were talking about that album. Let me see what the solo is so you guys can listen to it later. God, it's ripping, man. It is the solo on a song called Top Secret. Woo, man. Ripping. Damn. Alan said, has Warren ever done anything outside of Rat? He toured with Whitesnake, and he also does Kings of Chaos sometimes, which is like a all-star group that plays, covers, but it's like covers from all the real bands. So, they'll do Rat songs, and they'll do, it's Matt Sorum plays drums, so they'll do, Velvet Revolver songs, I guess, and whoever's, Gilby's in the band. Do a little bit of a rotating cast of different dudes that come and sing and play and stuff, but they do a lot of parties and corporate things, and sometimes they do public gigs and stuff like that, and they're a lot of fun stuff. So I think he enjoys doing that these days, and other things. So yeah. How do you practice the Van Halen swing stuff like I'm the One? I find that riff extremely hard. You just have to sit there and do it with just sit and do that, literally. Metronome, click, 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 click. Maybe record yourself. Make sure you're not going. I have to practice it too. Like I'd be a little too slow on it right now. But if I sit there and I do that for 15 minutes, right? Right? I don't know. You just have to, I have to practice it too. I mean, I'm not quite, right now, to me, I'm a little shit, so I have to sit there and play it for like a while, and if I do that for a couple days, then it's like, oh yeah, there it is, it's like, that's what you got to do. So, and Thrope says no Warren equals no rat. I agree. Warren is rat to me. And I think that's it. Yeah, Warren is rat. His riffs and his playing, and that's the cool part to me. So, did you get to try the EMGs? You know what? The guitar is still being built, man. It's Sir's got its quality problems, but they've got so many orders and things that they're doing and stuff. And I spec out that guitar and I wait just like everybody does, the dealers and the customers that custom order things. So it's not done yet. You just reminded me I should probably send a message to the guy from EMG because he's probably, well, what happened with the thing that I sent you to try? But the guitar is sort of like maybe 3/4 done, I think, or something. I don't know if it's been painted yet or not, but we're working on it. So hopefully soon. Can you show us that first pull-off lick from I'm the One? Okay. It's a little hard to hear the guitar, though, isn't it, with my setup right now? I'm sorry, I don't really have the setup going for it, but I can teach it to you. So, 5th fret of the G string, pull off to the open G string, then the A on the 4th string. Okay, now pull off the 2nd fret, so the 2nd string, 5th fret, to the open B. So, now the 7th fret of the G string, so pull off 7th fret to the C at the 5th fret to the open G. And then end up on the A note on the 4th string. Okay, now repeat. So you don't repeat the whole thing, but you start at the 2nd string. So now 2nd string, pull off to the open B on the 5th fret, pull off on the G, end up on A again. Repeat. Now, so end up on the E there on the 5th string. So he does a lot of these things where it's kind of like patterns across strings, right? Like right? No. Right? 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 It's kind of like an eruption. Oh, whoops. Right? It's patterns of like the where the shape stays the same. The notes go by so fast. There's out notes and stuff like that, but it doesn't matter because it just kind of, so all those notes are basically in the scale. It's kind of like an A Dorian thing, I guess, but holding the guitar at a weird angle here, but so you can see it. But eruption, same thing. Whoops, shit. He modifies the shape a little bit for the lower group of strings. So, anyways, a lot of cool, patterns, but that have a ripping sound. It's like, and a lot of the pull-offs and using the open strings and stuff. He was really amazing about that. But alrighty, what else have we got here? Did I get Bill's super chat? I think I did. Yeah, he said, "Have a great Sunday. Have a drink on me." Oh yeah, that's where I sang "Have a drink on me." Of course. Yeah. All right. All right. What do we got here? When you're not warmed up, you play like me. Hey, I got to warm up like anyone. Without an amp, I probably sound like crap. All right. What else we got here? Is that a brass nut on the Ibanez? Yes. Yeah. Just like Ed's. I'm not sure when the brass nut was put on that guitar, who did it, but it was definitely an aftermarket thing. So I love that guitar. Lauren says, how cool would it be to write a lick that other great players teach fans on YouTube? Thanks, man. I know it's such a cool licks that he came up with, right? Just listen to that Top Secret solo from Warren. That's a doozy. Great, moving from bridge pickup to Johnny Winter Blackmore neck. But yeah, and the neck pickup sounds really good too. He used those. I think he used those quarter-pound neck pickups. The Seymour Duncan's, with the JB and the bridge. So just beautifully constructed solo. It really is an amazing solo. Check it out if you guys haven't heard it. Ripping cool, awesome rock guitar playing. Yeah. Van Boingo says that Epiphone actually changed their headstocks, including the Alex Lifeson model. Let's take a look at that. Alex Lifeson. I always have a problem spelling Epiphone. It's like a word to spell. Epiphone.com, Alex Lifeson Axis Les Paul Standard. Let's take a look at that. I don't really think that headstock looks very different to me. I mean, it's not a Gibson headstock, which is all I'm interested in. I'm contradicting myself, but it's a cool guitar nonetheless. It's just that's the only thing that I have with the Epiphones is that I wish they had a Gibson headstock on them, but I don't really know why they don't do that, because it's Gibson, so they don't need to do that, right? It's like they just made a choice to use a different headstock to differentiate that line, but I think they should do more like the Orville thing, just to have the Epiphone logo with the Gibson headstock. I think it would be cool. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, what else we got here? Do you have any interest in having Sir make you reverse slant bridge pickup, reverse headstock Jimi Hendrix style guitar? Not really, but John, I've actually asked him about the reverse headstock thing, because there's been times where I thought maybe I should try that, and he goes, "You're not going to like it. When John tells me things, John poo-poos things a lot, but it's part of what I love about him, because he's a reality check." He told me once recently, he goes, "I rain on everyone's parade. I'm a black cloud." They're like, it's okay. You're a he's had strong opinions on things. That's all, and they're good opinions usually. And so one should listen. And of course, because he's John Suhr. So he said, you're not going to like it because of the tension of the strings is wrong with the what you're used to with the high E being with the it's got to do with the longer on the low E and stuff like that, going all the way out to the so he just kind of talked me out of the reverse headstock thing. Yeah, so I'm probably not going to end up doing that, but yeah. Is it true you were offered DLR tour and turned it down? Recommend a guy who got the gig. I wasn't offered the tour, but I was asked to come down, and it's true, I did sort of decline to go down, and I recommended Al Estrada, and I said, just trust me, and this guy's going to come in, and he's going to knock your socks off, and you're going to be done. You're going to be like, okay, we got our guy. And that's exactly what happened. He went down the next day, knocked it out of the park. Here's the thing. Well, I won't get too into details, but I just knew Al was the right guy. They'd gone through a lot of people, band members and things like that. Different people come and gone. I'd seen that process happen. And I just thought, at this point, they probably need a guy that can come in and just kind of, what song do you want to play? Okay, let's go. And because for me, I'd have to learn, like, what do you want me to do? And then it would be scrambling, to get it together. Cause I don't know every Van Halen song. It's true. So Al has done it. Like he's been in, whatever I'm not sure he was in Van Halen cover bands and he's done it forever and not music. I mean, I could do it, and it takes me, some time to practice and get everything and do it. Al, it's like in his DNA. It's like there's none of that. He just walk in and like if he does not sure of the song, he'll like put that on again. Oh yeah. And then because he's probably played them all like at some time or another in the course of the cover band. It just seemed at the time like the right thing. I also had a gig at the time, so I was doing a tour, and it probably would have meant like backing out of that and stuff, But anyways, that's what happened. So yeah, I did turn them on. I was in contact with them. I said, give my friend Al Estrada a call, and then he went down the next day, and he was in. There you have it. Yeah. What else we got here? What are your thoughts on noise suppressors? Do you ever use them in a pedal chain, or do good power supplies and cables handle the issues? Noise suppressors, you mean like gates? Because there's different places that noise comes from. I mean, ground loops and all that, I try and get out of the rig from the source. I don't want any of that kind of stuff and then hiding it with a noise suppressor. So any kind of extra noise I try and track down that is noise related to ground or that kind of thing. Hiss from pedals and things, that's another problem. That generally doesn't bother me too much, but and then we get into, okay. So on my board in loop 5, for a while I was using a boost in that that had some hiss to it to boost the front end of my amp for my lead sounds. And it was bothering me a little because I'd switch to a lead sound and coming through the amp, that sound, like when your volume's off on your guitar, just the hiss coming out of the pedal into the front end of the already dirty amp was a bit much. So what I did in that case was I got a little gate and I put it only in that loop, so it follows the overdrive pedal, and it's a small little, it's a little newer, which is a brand that Moore makes. I think it was literally $29, and it's a true bypass, simple gate. It works fine. It works just fine. It's a 1 knob gate, and it's so small. I fit it like in a place on my pedal board where you can't even see it. It's underneath the shelf and the switcher, and I can easily just, if I need it, I can turn it on and then tweak that 1 knob and just get it to gate just perfectly and so it's only on when the drive pedal is on in loop 5 on my pedal board. Now in the studio, because I have my board under my desk here, I find it useful sometimes when I'm playing a single coil guitar, or, because I have that, I've talked about a lot of the EMI in this room. It's just kind of like there's a lot of shit coming in the pickups from this room in the air. And so I do find that useful sometimes. I'll turn on loop 5 on my pedal board, but I'll turn off the boost many times, especially if I'm just going for like a light, I'm not using it for the boost, I'm using it for the gate. And I'll turn on that loop 5 and I'll just dial in that gate to just help clean up the sound a little bit. So that's cool. Now the other ones that I like, I've got, none of these are perfect, and they're all kind of band-aids. Where is it here? Somewhere. There it is. This little guy is pretty cool. The Rocktron noise reducer guitar silencer thing. This thing is cool. This is a hush with a gate. So basically on one control here, you've got the hush noise reduction, which is kind of like a downward expansion, some kind of, it's not exactly a gate, but it does dull the sound the more you bring it in. So it's a fine line, and I kind of moved away from using it because of that. It was sort of bothering me a little bit that it was on a dirty tone. You probably wouldn't notice. On a, like, you can even warm up the top end a little, but on a clean sounds and things, I wanted sparkly, but I just didn't want any single coil noise. I found it was dulling the sound too much. But it's okay, and it's a good little band-aid if you absolutely need it. And then it's got a gate as well. So between those two controls, you can kind of get somewhere that's in a noisy room or noisy situation. It's helpful. The MXR Smart Gate is another one that I really like, that works quite well. So that I've used over the years. Isn't the Sir headstock basically the Kramer headstock? It's very close. I don't know if that's where John got it from or not. I have no idea, but it's not exactly the same, but they're similar. Any recommendations for DI and reamp boxes? Radial, for sure. Radial has you covered. They've got specifically a reamp that changes, like a high impedance output out of your interface. Sorry, a low impedance line level output coming out of your interface. It'll change it to high impedance. You still need to adjust the level going into your interface, like so that it doesn't hit the amp too hard or whatever. But it's a nice reamp. I used to have one of those. That'll, so that your amp is seeing what sort of looks like a guitar signal input, impedance wise. And they also make killer DIs. So Radial's got you covered, and it's a one-stop shop for all that stuff for sure. There's a question about fork cable. Noise or buzz, do you ever get any ground loop issues from fork cable with the switcher? Yes. Generally speaking, you do. And you need to isolate things properly, So it can be all kinds of different things, but you can get something like, looking for a lot of examples around here today. Where's that box? It's kind of dark in here right now too, so let's see everything totally clearly, but let's see if my drawers are like full of cables and headphones and things. I don't know exactly. The lights. I'm not gonna be able to find it. The Humex. What the hell is that company called? I can't remember the name. Who makes the Humex? Let me find this out for you here. Humex. EBTech. So EBTech is the company, and they make a either single or dual channel. It's basically two isolation transformers in one box. That's a great thing to get. I've got one of those around so that if I'm having ground loops, I can just insert it in line. And you want to try like going to the input of the amp. Let's try and put an isolation transformer there. Does that kill the ground buzz? Okay, or if you're running 2 amps in stereo, like when I use 2 PT15s or 2 PT100s, and I'm coming out of the stereo path of my pedal board going to the 2 amps, I need to put an isolation transformer on one of them, going to the effects return of the second amp, or I get a little ground loop there, Palmer makes a single channel one. Samson makes a really inexpensive little one and they're all the same. They're just isolation transformers. So the little Samson one I bought from a Sam Ash once, and it's got a switch to turn on and off the some of them are just, they don't have a switch, but it has a little switch that lets you put the isolation transformer in line. So yeah. Can you demonstrate how you do the pick slide, power slide from Running with the Devil main riff? You just do a slide with the pick and then slide your hands. I really got to get a rig going in here, don't I? But so slide the pick, hammer your hand on and slide. Should I keep going for a while? Yeah, just pick slide, hammer the finger. 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 I'm so weird. Okay, Patrick Carroll actually says, you guys are making me run around in here today. Would you be willing to demonstrate how you wrap your thumb over the neck for vibrato after bends? You mentioned you don't have huge hands. I don't, just average hands. Be cool to see. Do I wrap my thumb? Maybe I do. I don't know. So I guess I do. Hear that string dive? Wasn't me. Just kind of like there, and then just use your fingers for. Sometimes I think it's cooler to not have an amp. It's like you can really hear what's, or maybe if it's as long as it's picking up in the microphone, but I don't know. Anyways, can somebody make an animated GIF of that? Zed, don't be bad. That destroyer is so good. I love it. I love it. I love it. What are you using for picks these days? Still the same old Ultex generally, but I do have a selection of different ones. I like some of the prime tone stuff. Like these guys, sometimes I'll use. This one's green. I don't know what gauge it is, but those are pretty cool. And I just have a little box here of different picks that I kind of pull from these days. So I've got some other ones I got to try, but I like these a lot, by the way, on acoustic, like a nylon thin, 60 to 73. These sound great on acoustic if you want a nice pick for acoustic guitar. They just are smoother sounding, But my main picks are these. These are that I've used for probably 13 years or something now. These are Ultex 73s. They just last a long time and they sound good across the board for different things. So they don't get, it takes a while to get an edge on them and all that. And, they just last. Really appreciate you. Peace. Thanks, man. I appreciate it, Ronan. Thanks for doing the super duper chat. And thanks for being here. You guys rule. Prime Tone 1mm says, John, that's cool. I hate the grip stuff on those Dunlops. Well, yeah, you can use, you mean on the which one? Like the one that I showed, the kind of serrated thing? That doesn't bother me on acoustic, really. Ultex Jazz 3 XL, says Scott Brockway. I used to use Jazz 3s. They're great for shreddy stuff. I just have problems playing rhythm guitar with them, whacking the guitar, What woods did you choose for the Surrey being built? You mean the one that's going to have these EMGs in it that I'm experimenting with? It's just, I believe it's alder body and probably Indian rosewood board and a maple neck. That's my standard, like for a Strat style guitar, my signature is a different thing with mahogany neck, mahogany body. But if I'm ordering like a classic, if I want a Strat, it'll be alder and a rosewood board and a maple neck, generally speaking. It's just a good basic combination of woods, I find. So alder's right in the middle of, just kind of like, I feel like it's going to sound good, It's like sometimes the swamp ash is more scooped, but it's nice for that airy 50s thing. More clean sounds and stuff can be cool. Yeah. Have you ever used Isotope Ozone? No, I've used a few Isotope plugins, like some of the problem fixing plugins, like the voice noise reducer kind of plugin that kind of takes away the like if you've got street noise or things like that, or like air conditioning noise in voice recordings and things. I'll use that sometimes, but that's it. I haven't really tried a lot of other Isotope plugins. I have a full suite of them, but you have to unlock them, you have to buy them or whatever. So that's the only one I've actually used for like problem things. It works pretty well. What kind of chair do you use in your studio? This is an IKEA chair, and I can't remember the name of it because it's got some crazy. It starts with a J, I think, and it's a great chair. This chair for anybody that wants a good one, man. I swear my back feels better. It's looks like that, So if you want to look at it on their website, it's got that back support, like good lumbar support. It goes up and down. You can even recline. I've taken a nap in this chair. It goes back about as far as an airplane seat. It works pretty good. But I went to like relax the back and some different places, and all good chairs are expensive, like anywhere 800, 900,000, maybe a little over. It's like, whoa, it's expensive, but I guess I'm going to have to do it. And then this was a gift actually. And it's so nice. And I feel my back was feeling like crap. I had this chair in here that I would sit in for hours working. And I swear, I thought about it recently, a couple of weeks ago. I was like, my back doesn't hurt anymore. And I think it's this chair. It just seems to have, it just works good. So it's cool. I highly recommend it. You'll find it on the IKEA website if you look for, office chairs or whatever. I'm sure you'll just You can reference it to this video and you'll find it. Yeah. Do you think Rack FX3, says Rob H, will replace tube amps? What's Rack FX3? Some kind of like Rack FX3. Is there some kind of, I don't even see anything that comes up. What is it? Some kind of product from, I see bicycles. Never heard of Rack FX3. I don't think it's going to replace tube amps then. I don't think so. The reality is nothing will ever replace tube amps, I don't think, entirely, because people like tube amps. People like having a cool sounding little combo or whatever, or even a head that kind of sounds like it moves their pant legs, That's fun. So I don't think that'll ever go away, that experience. Some people are always going to want that. Other people are happy playing a Kemper or a Helix, going direct using in-ears. It's a different experience. It's got its virtues, like I was talking a little bit earlier about when a perfect situation for using the Helix that I came up with was. But it's never going to tube amps are just, you go see bands play still, and what's the guy? He's got a Fender combo with some pedals going into it. Generally speaking, a lot of times, right? So that's just so common. So yeah. How can I stop my string vibration feedback when not playing or pausing? Loud electric guitar and feedback and stuff maybe depend on your number one. It's control of your hands and things. Your hands getting used to muting the guitar becomes an unconscious thing, right? For those out there that do this stuff, it becomes unconscious when you're muting and trying to stop ringing and extraneous sounds, and it just gets to be something that you get good at, but by playing through with volume, some volume. If you're getting a ton of squeal and things like that, maybe you use a ton of gain and you could back down that gain. Use it a little less is more sometimes when it comes to gain. It's a fine line, and a lot of the great sounds that we think were maybe really, really distorted weren't that distorted. It can be a combination of like less gain and more volume. It allows you to turn up the volume more and have more control when you're not using tons of overdrive or distortion. And then good things happen. You get tighter with your technique, and you retain more punch in the guitar sound, and all of a sudden, your parts have more impact if you get good playing like that. So, but it just depends on what kind of issues you're having. Learning how to control an electric guitar at the beginning is a bit of a bear, and I don't really understand where it came from, but we all go through that process where you get good at muting using both your right and left hands, and also rolling down the volume on the guitar. I do that stuff unconsciously now, where it just, I snap that volume off when I'm not playing just to keep sound clean. I don't even think about it. It just happens, it's just a part of like my technique. So, yeah. My knees hurt says it might be just the booze talking, but this is a great show today. Hey man, whatever it takes, whatever it takes. Yeah. I really like the her said stock, the Sir headstock. But I agree, Paul. The sharp hockey stick headstocks are not my favorite either. I can get with the sharp hockey stick headstocks on a Randy Rhoads or on even on a Charvel from, if it's one of those cool Charvels when they went to that headstock and it's made in 84 or 83 or whatever, because I got this memory, man. I mean, I remember when I went to Mother's Music in Edmonton, the first time they just gotten Charvels in, they just picked up the line, and it was the first ones in Canada. And I remember going down to the store and seeing those guitars. They had like 4 of them, and they were like on stands on a riser in the store. And it was like one of them had lightning bolts on it, and like graphics, and it was black with these lightning bolts and stuff. And I still remember that guitar. Single humbucker, probably had a Floyd, and by the time that Mother's got those guitars in Canada, it was already, they'd gone to that headstock, the tilt back hockey stick. Very iconic guitar to me because of my time in my youth when I saw those, and everybody was playing those, and it was just the cool guitar to have. And a couple of years later, I got one. I got the, I was able to convince, my folks to help me get this Jackson that was when they changed the name to Jackson on the bolt-ons, but it was still basically the same guitar. And that's my Jackson that I still have to this day. Just the big frets and the flat neck and all that stuff. It was just a thing. So I don't mind that headstock on those guitars is what I'm saying. But generally speaking, I'm with you. I prefer the Strat, the Kramer headstock, that they're using again now on the 5150 standard guitar or whatever they're calling them. Those are cool. I mean, it's on that guitar. It looks cool. So, yeah. What else here? Pickup suggestions. A2 is a must, and splittable neck pickup is a must. Splittable neck pickup. I basically want a Les Paul and a Strat in one guitar. Well, I mean, you're not, the Thornbucker set kind of does that. I split the neck pickup on my guitar, on my signature guitar, and I like the way the Thornbucker sounds split. It's a pretty weak single coil, but it works good. It sounds cool. But you want an A2 bridge pickup, so you'll have to get something different in the bridge. Why don't you get a Thornbucker neck pickup and get a, Pasadena white in the bridge or something if you really want an A2. And then do the A5 in the neck. It'll work. It'll work good. It'll be a little warmer than a Thornbucker in the bridge with the A2, but you're a rocker, dude. Just look at your avatar. So try that. Thornbucker in the neck and a Pariah Pasadena white bridge, and put a split on the neck pickup and enjoy yourself. That's what I say. Have a good time. Yeah. Did you just say Thornbucker? I did. I have my own pickups. The Thornbucker and the Thornbucker Plus from Sir. Check them out. What's the oldest piece of gear you have? That's a good question. Oldest piece of gear I have? Probably my 63 335. I don't think I have any 50s gear. Yeah, it's got to be the 335. And then the other guitars I have are vintage 64 and 66. So it must be the 335. Yeah. I have had, at one point I owned a 54 Gold Top, and that was an amazing guitar, and I was an idiot, and I sold it because I'm an idiot. Let's just be honest. Flat out stupidity. But what can you do? It's gone. So no use crying over sold guitars. What else? Control comes the more you play. Harnessing the rock. I like that. Do you have a Kiesel guitar? I don't. I found my dad's old JCM 881. I don't love 800s, but I might have to buy it for sentimental value. Easy to mod, easy to kind of tweak and massage and get into different zones. So that's a great amp. You should probably get it. How come you got to buy it if it's your dad's though? Won't you just lend it to you or something? How many watts are your glasses? These ones are low watt. These are 10 watt glasses, but my contacts are like 300 watts. I've got contacts in too, because I can't see otherwise. This would not be fun. I'd be just going like this if I didn't have those right now. Your wealth of knowledge. I don't know. I hope I know something valuable. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. I just embrace it. Yeah, that's right. Be like Hendrix. Embrace the feedback. Make that part of the song. Play that action. Have you played any Carvin amplifiers you thought had good cleans and yet crunchy when you need it? That's the Legacy to me, and not a bad amp at all. The original Legacy was a pretty cool amp for what it was. The dual channel jobby. I had a combo for a minute, and I almost got one and used it on a gig back around 2000, right when they first came out. Were they out then? I guess they were, because I remember the gig. that I took it to rehearse. It's amazing they've been around that long, but or were around that long. But anyway, that pretty good sounding. That was the one amp, the Legacy. That to me kind of had like a Bognerish drive channel and a decent clean channel for sure. What else we got here? You guys are recommending decimators for noise gates. I'm just going back through the chat. The decimator, yeah, it's kind of based around the same design, I think, as the Rocktron stuff. I think it was a Rocktron guy that made the decimator, but it's basically a dual situation kind of gate, isn't it? I mean, you can get the pedal one that just goes in front, but I think the rack decimator is meant to go in front of the amp as well as in the loop, and it kind of it gates and does its noise suppression in all the different areas. Pretty cool. For high gain players, it seems like a bit of a metal sort of standby, that a lot of guys use and stuff. Yeah. Oh, this is the name of the chair for those folks that were asking about my chair for the studio. Jarfajalet, Sweden. Yes. What else we got here? Let's see. My chair was $100 21 years ago, says my knees hurt. Your back must hurt too. Oh, brother. You make my Sunday, says Patrick. Please know that. Thanks, man. You guys make my Sunday too. Hey, I look forward to this. I know I say that, but I mean it. I know I say it often. I look forward to doing this every week. I really do. IKEA, correct. The chair is from IKEA. It's a good chair. Good deal. Good chair. I can't say with any kind of certainty that it's not made by 8-year-olds in some far-flung country that doesn't have good protection for workers, but it is a really good chair. So great stream, but I have to bounce. But do you do this every Sunday? I do, Dan. I do this every Sunday about 11:30 or 11:35 or sometimes 11:37 a.m. I start. Those that are regulars can attest to the fact that I'm sometimes fashionably late. But yeah, every Sunday, and that's Pacific time. Preston says, I would love one of those dual gates for my amp. Truth is, I only need it when I kick on my distortion pedal. Is it a really hissy distortion pedal? Or do you just like that really tight, like that thing that metal guys do where they want it to gate? I get that. That's a whole thing. It's always balancing that with the sustain, and being able to roll the volume down on the guitar and get some, but metal guys don't really do that. They're changing to a clean channel or turning off the distortion to go to the clean. And, like Gates and Jimmy Page style thing does not really go hand in hand, This doesn't really work. Gates and Jeff Beck, that's not going to work. It depends on what you're doing. Your advice on more channels for Apollo Twin and Quad. You know what you can do? Audient. Let's see. Audient. Yeah, they make this thing that you can connect. Is it the ASP880? Let me see here. It allows you to, yes, I believe that is it. It's got a converters. I think that's the one. 8-channel microphone preamp analog to digital. I'm not sure that this is the one, but Audient makes a thing that lets you output, like is it ADAT digital? And allows you to connect ASP. Maybe it's the ASP800. I'm just looking here. It looks like they're about $850 at Sweetwater. Basically, it allows you to use via ADAT or light pipe or whatever it is, but you can hook it up to your digital in on your UA, and it's got 8 mic pre's in it. So you can expand your channels that way. Anyway, you'll find it. Audient, AUDIENT. Look for the product from them. That's an 8-channel kind of expansion. It's great for like drummers or people that need a lot of inputs and stuff. Van Boingo. Any upcoming projects touring I'm looking into things, but nothing solid yet. Not until the new year, January, February, and that will be in the UK. But we'll see. We'll see what transpires over the next little while. Got a few irons in the fire, though. We'll see. Yeah. What else we got here? When I was 14 in '88, I had a Les Paul Deluxe, best neck I ever had. Can you give me your thoughts? When I think about those Gibson necks from the '80s, they were kind of like a C, comfortable, not too fat. Some of those mid '80s, late '80s Gibsons. That's when Gibson was starting to pick up steam again. And I remember them getting better, like '85, '86. Those guitars are pretty cool from that era. Some of them. So beyond that, I mean, there's a lot of hand shaping going on. Your guitar could have been unique and cool, in some ways. It's interesting. This fellow is asking a similar question. Thoughts about R0 versus R9. An R9 has a nice fat, not too fat though. Not like those, the R7 and the R8 many years, they're just too fat to me. Too much of a great big block of wood, And then the R9, they would, less shoulder and all that. And it was like a nice thing. The RO is a different thing altogether. It's more like that, kind of like the neck on my 335, actually, where it's like a wide, thin, rather thin by Gibson standard, but not a bad thing. I mean, very playable. I like those necks. Kind of the Jimmy Page shave it down, thing. I can get used to a lot of different things. I'm not too crazy about when necks are massive, That's not really my thing. I don't mind them on the big side if they're sort of tapered on the shoulder and have rounded, whatever they call it. They call that when they rolled edges. That's it. If it's rolled edges and not too shouldery, I'm okay with that, And real Gibson necks from the 50s were like that. Like, I never played a Gibson neck from the 50s. I played a lot of 50s Les Pauls and 335s, all kinds of guitars that generally have really great necks. My 54 Les Paul had a little bit of a V to it. It was great neck on that guitar. And most 50s Gibsons that I've played I've played some 59 and 60 Les Pauls, and they do have that getting anywhere from a nice, fatter C, very slight. I don't remember playing any 59 Les Pauls that really had a V thing at all. That was more like 54 to 57. And then they started changing. And then, there's a nice sort of C shape to the 59s, but with a beautiful, the necks were all shaped by hand. So like the neck on my Yaren, for example, has a great, I would say it's asymmetrical for sure, because it's hand sanded. It's not totally consistent all the way up, but none of my vintage guitars are. My Telly isn't. My old Strat has a very interesting neck with it's the hand sanding thing, There's a lot of like personality in those necks. So anyways, but the RO thing, R0 or whatever, the 60 Les Paul, wide, thin, more like a 64 SG or something, or maybe not that wide, but that era of Gibson neck I love. Like, that's, if you certain 63, 64 SGs or SG specials, SG juniors, they got this killer neck that's like almost like a shred neck. Like, just really super playable and fun. Yeah. All right, what else we got here? My 86 is one of the thinner necks I have, says Curtis. Way thinner than a 53 Telly, which is basically a Louisville Slugger. Yeah, I know. Those 50s, on a Telly, it kind of works. Those I don't mind too much. Those big, the Broadcaster and the early, the no-caster necks and stuff. And but even those, many times, I mean, I've played real ones. They're not as big sometimes as what Fender will do now. The custom shop goes a little overboard with how huge they make things sometimes. But anyways, why not come up with a Thorn box pedal board with your FX and amp models of your amps in one unit? I kind of got things. There's things happening. There's things. That's all I'll say. Working on things. Got to keep it fun. It's a surprise. Surprises are fun. Don't you like surprises? I played a 1960 Burst that was set up by Ralph Novak. Yeah, that's cool. Tough act to follow. Yeah, I mean, I played a few that were just like, oh my god, like this guitar plays. Brian Ray has one. I'm not sure if it's the one he kept. I think he had one and then he sold it and he got another one. So, but I played the previous one, which was kind of a plain top, but god damn that guitar. I mean, the neck on that guitar. First of all, the condition it was in, it was like in better shape than my 2009. Yeah, I was like, is this a new guitar? It's amazing. You know, a $300,000 guitar or something. So crazy. What's the most MacGyver-ish type of thing you were ever forced to do for a show? Uh, hmm, hmm. I don't remember, man. There's got to be something I have to think about for a little while. But like as far as like having a jerry rig something to just hold it together, I mean, it's happened for sure. But I just don't remember right now. I do remember like right before going on stage in Israel in 2009, the Chris Cornell tour, there was a problem with I was using rental amps and a Nova system from TC, and my tech was having an issue right before we went on. It wasn't switching right and stuff, and there was like 7,500 people there, and I remember just being like, "Oh, fuck, like, what?" This one tech, I love the guy actually. He's a great guy, great guitar player, but he used to try and solve things sometimes when it would have been maybe just easier to come get me and ask me to help. And so he was trying to figure out something, and he couldn't figure it out, and he was like panicking a little bit. And I was like, man, like it was a really stressful show. I remember because we had to fly there with almost nothing. I could only take two guitars, maybe no, two. That was it. Two guitars, rented amps, and some effects. We weren't going to cart gear there; it was too expensive. So I had to figure out how to fly with two instruments, and it was hard on the Chris Cornell's gig because it was all those alternate tunings, acoustic, all kinds of stuff. So I took my Les Paul that had Fishman. This is pretty. Yeah, this is the gig, I guess. This is the MacGyver gig. It had a Fishman pickup in it, so I could do acoustic sounds by pulling one of the pots out, and it would output a stereo jack in it. So that I used that, and it didn't even, it sounded okay. It was like one of those power bridge things, but that's what I used for acoustic that night. And for the electric songs, there were songs like "Pretty Noose" and "Burden in My Hand" that had alternate tunings, right? That are really crazy, where you actually have to pull the string, like you need a different gauge G string and stuff like that. So like had to have the guitar restrung. So actually, we organized the set list so my tech could take the guitar, restring it for those two songs. I'd take the guitar from, we play those two songs. I'd give him the guitar back, get the other one, and then he would change the strings back on the guitar really quick. So that if I had a backup, I would have been screwed in that 2 minutes where he was changing the string. But anyways, like that kind of thing. And then I just remember the Nova system and like this radical different rig. But we had, that's one of my favorite shows. So it's funny, made it work and got it together. Uh, so thanks, Pete. That was a great answer. Thank you. Yeah, you got to do these things sometimes. You figure it out, make it work. You just make it work. I can remember all kinds of stuff though. I remember like my tech having to make a power cable out of like something happened with a power cable for something. It was maybe we were in Europe and we didn't have a certain power cable for something. It was a certain kind of connector. So he stripped the end off the power cable and took the wires in the ground and he twisted them and soldered them and he made a thing that he could plug into the power to work with no end on it. I was like, is that anything close to safe? But it worked. He like plugged it right into the strip, like with the raw wires, and it was like, oh my God, that doesn't look good. But shit like that, it's just like whatever you can do. We used a roach clip to place a melted solder joint into our microphone mixer. Last just long enough. Yeah, to get the gig done, right? You get through it. And kind of when you do stuff like that, and you're like, you made it through it, and you just get it. You get it, and get it done, and you feel like job well done at the end of it all. Good thing. So love hearing those road stories, says Christian. Yeah, it's fun. This is where a good tech comes in handy. It's like that kind of thing I would never think of. And he's like, well, I'll just chop the end off this power cable and take these raw wires and like do this. And I'm like, oh, but he did that and it was cool. Yeah. It's so weird. when I think about some of these things. But yeah. How's that hot Thornbucker coming along? Hey, don't give away things. We're working on things. I actually got a prototype pickup the other day. It's fantastic. So I love it. Great. Loving it. Down the road a little bit, but interesting. Randy says, yeah, similar. Whoops. Chat jump. Sorry about that. I had a gig decades ago, power jumper for my 73 Sound City, got lost, used solid core electric wire to make a jumper. It's interesting, right? New York City, humidity is high as well, celebrating with a beer. I know it's hot out there, right? Crazy. And the floods and everything. I've seen the videos of the subway. It looks gnarly. Deshaun says in the super chat, thank you very much for the super chat. We'll buy the PT15 in the future, deciding on an Origin 20 or 50 or a Vox AC15. Have a Mesa Rectoberg 25, good amp, but want something to go with it. For the rock, of course. Suggestion. Well, I heard an Origin 20 that Friedman modified that was ripping, like sounding great. So you might consider getting one used and then sending it to him. It'll probably cost you about $300 for the amp and then $300 or $400 for a mod or something. And then away you go. You got it for, $700 or something. You got a ripping modded Marshall tone. An SV20, they're pretty cool. I played one and I thought it was good. And certainly, once again, a fun little platform to mod. Any of these kinds of amps I would send to Dave, for the mod. If you want that kind of great Marshall thing out of any of these, and have him do his thing on them, just make it sound cool. 777 Danny says, cool hairstyle. Thanks. Yeah, I just got to cut it. Cut it and kind of mess it up. Make it so that it's choppy. And she did it. It was cool. I appreciate that. Thank you. 27 Celsius, says John. That is pretty warm. A nice summer day, depending on how humid it is. Could be. That's nice no matter what, even if it's humid, right? 27 Celsius for those that don't know out there. Let me guess. In Fahrenheit, that's about 79 degrees, I'm going to say. 80, maybe. Am I right? Somebody look on the weather app. Oh, they never went to the metric system here in the United States. It's so silly. We like to hold on to our fractions. 1 7/8. What are these millimeters? What's this? Does anyone know of a site that has a user-friendly list of guitar necks and years, maybe models? Not that I know of. Not one central site. Well, I guess it's split pretty soon. It's 1:45. I'll go get some work done. I'll take a few more here, and then I'm going to go. Get some work done. 80.6. I fucking nailed that shit. Come on. That was right off the top of my head. Come on. That was good, right? I'm good at a few things. I'm good at guessing Fahrenheit to Celsius. I'm good at guessing age, and I'm good at guessing weight, although it can get you in trouble. But I'm pretty good at it. I've nailed people's weight before. Like, you're 132 pounds. And they're like, well, that was weird. Nailed it. Man of science, says Randy. That's me. I am a man of science. Most certainly. Yeah. What else we got here? Bought a Friedman BE50 Deluxe, and it's hands down the best amp I ever played through. Dave is a beast. He's the man. He's a lot of fun. He's a great dude. You still have a Rockway Archer? I do. Love the built-in EQ. Yeah, it was fun. I used that on my board as my lead boost for quite a while. I did. Dave did. Yeah, that's true. Dave did mention during Tone Talk he's buried in amp mods. I can attest to that. He's got a lot of amps in his shop. A lot of people getting mods. It looks like a Marshall graveyard. It's true. Yep. I seem to recall using a metallic gum wrapper to connect a blown fuse at a show. Not safe, but got the PA going again so we could finish the show. Certainly not safe, but sometimes it's all in the spirit of rock and roll. Ever run into the PT15 as backline amps? Probably not. I mean, not a lot of backline companies are probably going to have them. I would be stoked if they did, but it's kind of more of a boutique amp. You know how it is. But when I go to different places, generally speaking, I will work out with the local distributor, or like when I went to go to England, I used an amp that it's actually a gentleman that works for Sir over there, but he had a PT15, and that's what I use over there. And so, it works out, but he's also a good friend of mine, so that helps. Yeah. Many times, I'll work it out with the company, actually, like on one tour, I actually had heads. I remember it might have been the first Kiyoshi Nagabuchi tour. The distributor in Japan bought 2 heads, 2 cabs, and I used them for the tour, and then I signed them and they sold them as, my tour used amps in Japan, because the artist I play with over there is massive, and he's got his own fans. It just seemed to make sense. It was like, well, this is a way that, it's, how those things are cool sometimes or whatever for, fans and things like that. And, the amps have full warranty and everything still. And they were the amps I used on that tour. So signed them at the end. They took video of me signing them and all that, and then they sold them. Yeah, I think that was 2 of the actually 2 of the PT signature run, like the silver face one, like the one that's over there when we first came out with the amp, to the 50 that ended up going to Japan. Okay, well, videos this week, says Peter Evans. Okay, yeah, I got videos coming this week I got a couple Marshall in a Box style pedals here. Let's look at them real quick. Here's the Room 40 from Sekalis. This is a JCM 800 meets Plexi pedal. You can do both with this switch right here. The switch right, isn't that weird how it's backwards when you see it right there, that switch. There's a variac knob that actually lets you vary the voltage from 7 volts on up to like 20 or something like that, I think, internally in the pedal for more headroom. Full tone stack. It's a Marshall in a Box with a boost switch. Sounds really good. Really does. What's this one? Another similar Marshall in a Box, Volta. This is from Italy. These are both great. They both sound really good. This one's maybe a little more, although it's capable of gaining stuff and stuff. I was like, okay, well, what's the difference between these? This one may be a bit more, they're both great. I mean, I was going to say this one a bit more vintage Marshall, this one a bit more modded, but there's a lot of crossover between them, and they both sound very, very good from different people. So videos for those. I still got to get a video done for Overloud plugins in their new super cabinet sim. I'm going to do a video for that hot mod dual tube thing that plugs into an 800. So just that's coming. What else? Very cool amp that somebody is loaning me to make an Amps in the Zone. Why don't I keep it a surprise? It's cool though. Rare as hell, expensive. You'll never find one. So it's just for history's sake, really. But it's not a Dumble, but it's similar. So, so that's coming, and I'll make an Amps in the Zone. I'm going to do that this week. Those things. I got a few other things outside on my shelf and things to get to, but pedals, good times. Do you ever use an Eventide H3000? No, but I have I don't now. I have in the past on things in the studio and stuff, but I have the H3000, pitch up, pitch down, micro pitch thing in my H9s and stuff like that. And then I'll use the plugin a lot too. Like the plugin's great. H3000 plugin totally kicks ass. Really good sounding. Peter Evans says, great show, sir. Always a better Sunday. Videos this week. Oh, I did that, didn't I? How quickly I forget. Thank you, Peter, for the super chat. I never get tired of hearing new Marshall tones in a box, even if they never quite measure up to the real thing. It's a really tough sound to get exactly right, but it is fun, right? They're fun. It's a fun pedal to, if you're a Tube Screamer or a Klon guy or like a Marshall in a Box guy, it's fun to check all the different ones and see if it's like, slightly different take on, We're geeks. We're nerds. This is what we do. We're some Dungeons and Dragons style weirdos, you know? Right? What guitar do you reach most as your daily player? My signature one, probably my red signature, which is right here. I can reach it right now, almost without moving. This has been my mainstay, kind of, you know. Look how gorgeous that is. Look at it, just with that hint of red. Look at. Oh, is it black? No, it's not. Oh, it's. Oh, look at that. Come on, see, you know. But yeah, this guy right here is. It's kind of my main. Jack of all trades, do it all, feel good, practice guitar, have a good time, enjoy my life. Yeah, more use than probably any other guitar in here. But I love that Destroyer that's sitting over there, or two right there on the stand right there. Right there. That's fun too, to just rock out on. So sometimes when I'm writing new things, like rock things or whatever, I'll plug in. I just like want a raw. I'll grab that thing, and because it's so cool for that sound. Yeah. Thanks, Eric. Appreciate that. Love your stuff, all the demos. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Peter, thanks for being here. Patrick Carroll, thanks for being here. All you nice folks. All right. I suppose I should split. I'll go get some work done. Dakota recommends the stock Eventide H2000 preset 519 instant Van Halen balance era sound. It's probably +9, -9. Still chorus harmonizing. It's good stuff. Yeah, micro pitch gets balanced instantly. That was the sound. It was a cool sound. It's a fun sound to play through. You can't use it all the time. It's a little like, you know, a rich sauce that, oh, well, this is delicious. And it's like, I've had enough of this very rich bolognese or whatever, you know, but it's a great thing nonetheless, right? All right, guys, rock on. And thanks for being here. I'll see you next week. I'll get some videos out this week and stuff. Let's continue on in our rock guitar journey. Have a great week.